What's up everyone, Snowflake Dan here with you. Today we're going to be covering over how to take files from SFTP and load them into a Snowflake Stage using OpenFlow. So let's get to it. So here on the page you can see we've got a tutorial. We're going to use this tutorial for a whole host of things, whether it's the images itself or code snippets while we're working. So the first thing we're going to want to do is download the connector. The idea here is that instead of you having to build the whole thing out and go over all the parameters and things like that, we're just going to simply provide the connector, and then you can go from there and kind of build on your own if you want to extend it out. So the first thing I'm going to do is actually open up that file to uncompress it, and here we can see we have this JSON file. Perfect. So what we'll do next is, I don't have anything in my Snowflake account, so I'll copy over this code that will create a database, some schemas, and a warehouse for me. So we'll head over to Snowflake, we'll go to Projects, Workspaces. From there, I'll paste in my code. I will select it all and hit Run. I've created everything there. We'll head back to the tutorial. And for the next part, what we're going to want to do, since I'm hosting mine inside of my deployment of OpenFlow inside of Snowflake, there is a little bit networking that I'll have to do. Now, if you're on AWS, you'll have to do that inside of AWS. So let's head back to Snowflake. I'll copy the example because the example is actually what I'll be using today. So I'll paste all of that in. And one thing to call out here is that if you're going to use an SFTP, the main thing for external access is that you have to add the port number. If you don't add the port number, Snowflake will think that it's trying to go to like a normal web page, which is known as port 80. So make sure you add that in. It'll save you a lot of headaches. So we'll simply run that. From there, we'll head back to the tutorial. And the next and final thing we'll have to do is create a stage so that we can put our files into. So we'll copy that. I'll want to put that into the SFTP schema, and I'll run it. And so now what we could see is if we refresh our window down here, we could see we've got raw and a schema called SFTP and our stage. Perfect. So now what we'll want to do is we'll head over to OpenFlow. So we'll go to ingest OpenFlow. We'll launch OpenFlow. And if you do get an error while you're trying to get to this page after you've logged in, just make sure that your role is not set to an admin role. So here on the page, just make sure you default your role to something other than an admin role. Awesome. So after that, what we'll want to do is actually create a runtime so that we could add our connector to it. So we'll click plus runtime. We'll select our deployment. In my case, it's Snowflake. We'll give it a name. I'll call it SFTP. We'll select a role. In this case, it'll be account admin. And then we'll select our external access. So we'll click create. And this will take roughly 5 to 10 minutes. So I'm just going to fast forward from here. So now that we can see that our state has gone from creating to active, and I can click into the runtime. I'll log in again. Click allow. And I'm inside of the OpenFlow canvas. So the first thing we'll want to do is add that connector that we downloaded earlier. So we'll go to process groups and we'll drag that to the screen. We'll click the upload button and select our JSON file. From there, we'll click add. And now we can see the connector has been added to the canvas. From here, what we'll want to do is set up the parameters, or what is traditionally known as the variables for our SFTP and also our Snowflake account. So to do that, we'll simply right click, go to parameters, and here you can see we get the whole list of parameters. What we'll do is click cancel, and we can see that there's mostly 2 or 3 steps if you're on AWS. So the first thing we'll want to do is click edit on the SFTP one. We'll uncheck the inherited parameters, and we can see now that all we'll need is a URL, username, and key. So to add those, you simply click edit. From here, I will drag my host onto the screen, or my URL. We'll click OK. The next is username. So again, I'll copy that over and paste it in. Perfect. Now, the third one is a key. You might have a password, which you could change in later steps in this tutorial, where I'll show you how you can do it. But in this case, I'm going to use a key because it showcases how you can also upload files. Here, we'll click Edit, we'll click Reference Assets, we'll click Upload, and then upload one more time. Now, I'm going to upload my key. You can see it's been uploaded. We'll click Close, and I could select it now. I'll hit OK. And the final piece is you can also update the schedule. So these are the parameters or variables for our SFTP. So I'll simply click Apply. And if you get 2 red boxes, that doesn't mean anything's gone wrong. That just simply means the connector is now stopped or ready to use, but in a stopped state. So we'll click Close. And the next part is our Snowflake account. So I'll click Edit here. And the first thing we'll see here is what's known as a Snowflake connection strategy. So I'll click Edit, and we have a nice helpful hit here. So if I'm deployed on Snowflake, I'll simply select Snowflake session token. If I was on AWS, I would use a key pair. So I'll select that. I'll go to the role. My role will be account admin. The next will be the warehouse. If you remember at the beginning, we called ours OpenFlow. Our database is raw. Our schema is SFTP. And the next is the stage, which we called files. We'll click OK and then hit apply. Now again, don't worry about these. This just means that our services layer has not been started, and we will show how to do that in a second. We'll click close. If you are deployed on AWS, you will just have a few extra steps. So in this case, we click edit. You'll put your account identifier, the username, and the private key to log into. Perfect. So we'll go back to the process group. And here we can see that we've stopped everything. What we'll want to do is simply right click it and enable all controller services. Controller services are things that we use to connect to the Snowflake account. So we'll click enable, and now you can see that that little warning sign has gone away. So how does this work? So what we'll want to do, instead of just clicking start and running, I want to tell you guys about how this actually works under the hood so that you could change the parameters, or really the functionality and configuration of the connector to suit what you want to do. So we'll double click inside of here. You can see we've got the first step here, which is list SFTP. Now, just like the name kind of entails, what we'll be doing is grabbing the list of files that we want to ingest into the next step. So if we simply right click and click configure, you could see here we've got the first is the scheduling block, and we've got that SFTP run schedule that we set earlier. The next thing we'll want to go to that is important is the properties. So here, this is where you can configure how you want or what files you really want to pull from your SFTP bucket. You could specify things like the remote path. You could also say, and what we use in our case is search recursively, which means to look into all the folders that are within this path, and we will pull those files. In my case, I only have 2 files in 2 folders, but it showcases that it will ingest all of those files. Additionally, there's a lot of regex filtering, timestamps, proxies, tracking, etc., etc. But in this case, we're going to keep it simple. So we're happy with all these settings. We'll click cancel here. And so if we wanted to test this to make sure that it's grabbing the correct files, what we could actually do is right click and run once. Now what run once will do is it will go and run this specific section of it, or what's known as a processor, once to pull what files I want. Now once this processor is finished running, what will happen is it will go into the success state right here. And what we could do is actually look at the files that it's selected. So this could be really good for troubleshooting because I don't have to run the entire process to see if it works and then troubleshoot backwards. I could see in flight what it will look like. So we'll simply go to it. We'll click list queue. And here we can see we've pulled two different files. Now these are just references to files. They're not the files themselves. So we'll actually go into the next step that will pull those files. So here, again, just like the name entails, we're going to fetch from SFTP to pull those files in. Now again, you can go into the configurations, but we'll keep it simple here and we'll simply say run once. Now in this case, running once will mean that I only want one of those files, because alternatively, if you ran this, it would pull all of the files. So again, this is really good for troubleshooting, because if you have one file and you just want to validate that file is being pulled correctly, you can. So here we could go into the queue again. You can see now we've got that sample CSV file, and if I wanted to, I can download the contents of it. Additionally, I could view the contents, but because this is a CSV, it's going to have this kind of hash approach here. And so or a hex approach here, my apologies. You can see the hex is up here. If we wanted to, we could change it to CSV, and now we could see the actual CSV itself. So we'll close this. We'll go back to the connection. And from there, we'll run the final step, which is to put it into our stage in Snowflake. So we'll run that step, and then we will see the final result. Now, you can see here, there's a few messages here. Again, we can keep track of what's going on. If we do get a failed state or a connection that doesn't fail or the file doesn't pull, we can go and look at those failures as well. So from a logging perspective, it's really nice to use OpenFlow as well. So here you can see we've got one successful pull. So if we went back into our Snowflake account, we went to the catalog, we went to raw, and then SFTP, stages, and files. If we do a quick refresh, you could see that I've got one CSV file in here and it was pulled 35 seconds ago. Awesome. So we've been able to load it. Now, what would I want to do? Now, what can I do if I just want to run this on that automated schedule? Well, if we go back to OpenFlow, we go back to that process group, we can right click it and hit start. Now, what this means is that it will start to run on that schedule and it will start to pull all of the files. So here you could see it's already ran, which shows the power of OpenFlow and how fast it is, and that we've got 4 successful runs. So if we go back to our Snowflake account and refresh our stage, we can now see that we've overwritten the original file, and we've also added that sample.json as well. Awesome. So this has been loading SFTP data into a Snowflake stage via OpenFlow. Thanks for watching.